Hey, imagine waking up before sunrise to the smell of smoke, mud, and hardtack. Your stomach empty, your body aching, and a distant boom of cannon fire reminding you that today could be your last. That was daily life for a Civil War soldier. Long marches in scorching heat or freezing cold, nights spent shivering under the stars, and the constant fear that the next bullet, disease, or misstep could end it all. Glory existed, sure, but it came at a cost most of us couldn't even imagine. If you love falling asleep to the real, raw stories of history, a like or subscribe would be amazing. And tell me where you're listening from. It's wild seeing people from all over the world tuning into the same battlefield story. All right, tonight we're stepping into the worn boots of a Civil War soldier to feel the hunger, the fear, and the courage it took just to survive. So get comfortable, let your mind wander back in time, and let's discover what it was really like on the front lines.
Congratulations, you've just woken up in 1862. The soft morning light filters through a canvas tent that smells of musty earth and wood smoke. Your joints ache from sleeping on the hard ground, and the thin wool blanket that covered you during the night is damp with dew. The good news is you're alive for another day. The bad news is you've got another long march ahead, with your regiment heading toward a rumoured battle that everyone's been talking about for days. You're just 19 years old, and about 6 months into your service with the Union Army. Last year, when President Lincoln called for volunteers to serve for 90 days, it had seemed like an adventure, a brief and glorious opportunity to serve your country before returning home a hero. But the 90 days came and went, and the war dragged on. Now you're committed to 3 years of service, and the romantic notions you once had about war have long since faded away. Your mouth is dry, and your stomach rumbles. Reaching under your bedroll, you pull out a small tin cup and a canteen. The water inside the canteen sloshes about half full. You take a small, careful sip, just enough to wet your mouth. Who knows when you'll be able to refill it? Water's precious on a march, and you've already seen men drop from heat exhaustion when their canteens ran dry. Outside your tent, the camp is coming alive. The heavy smell of smoke and coffee fills the air, making your empty stomach growl even louder. You can hear your tent mate, Samuel, stirring beside you. He's older, maybe 24, and from a farm in Pennsylvania. His breathing has a slight wheeze to it. He's been fighting a cough for weeks, but like everyone else, he keeps marching. What choice does he have? "Morning," Samuel mumbles, his voice rough with sleep. "Think they'll feed us proper today?" You both know the answer. Proper food is a distant memory from home. The army rations, when they arrive on time, consist mainly of hard tack, a flour and water biscuit so tough it could break your teeth if you don't soak it first. Sometimes there's salt pork that's more salt than pork, and coffee if you're lucky. The coffee is the real treasure. Many soldiers would trade their tobacco or even part of their food ration for a cup of the bitter brew. You slip your feet into your boots, wincing at the dampness inside. Your socks never seem to dry completely, and you can feel the beginnings of a blister forming on your right heel. But complaining won't help. Everyone's in the same condition, or worse. At least you still have boots. You've seen men marching with rags wrapped around their feet after their shoes fell apart. "Just be glad we ain't the Rebs," Samuel says, as if reading your thoughts. "Heard they're living on cornbread and anything they can steal." Outside, a bugle sounds, signalling the official start of the day. You and Samuel quickly roll up your blankets and dismantle the small tent. Everything you own must fit in your knapsack or be carried on your person. The efficiency of your morning routine comes from months of practice, a far cry from your first weeks as a soldier, when every task seemed overwhelming. The weight of your equipment is something you've grown accustomed to, though your shoulders still ache by day's end. Your Springfield rifle musket alone weighs nearly 10 pounds. Add to that your cartridge box with 40 rounds of ammunition, a bayonet, canteen, have a sack for food, a blanket, personal items, and sometimes a portion of the shared equipment like cooking tools or the tent, and you're carrying close to 40. You join the line of men gathering around the company cook fires. The company cooks. Soldiers selected for the duty are doing out coffee in tin cups and hard tack from barrels. You take your ration gratefully, dunking the rock-hard biscuit into the black coffee to soften it. The first bite reveals tiny black specks moving in the soaked hard tack weevils. You've learned to ignore them. Protein is protein, as the veterans joke, and picking them out is a waste of precious eating time. Mail came in last night, says a freckle-faced private named Jenkins. Wilson's got letters. This news sends a ripple of excitement through the men. Letters from home are more valuable than gold out here. They're the thin threads connecting you to the world you left behind. To people who still remember you as more than just another blue uniform in an endless line of marching men. You finish your coffee quickly, hand back the tin cup, and join the small crowd gathering around Wilson, the company clerk who handles the mail. He's calling out names, and each time a letter is claimed, you see a momentary flash of joy on a dirt-streaked face. You wait, hoping, but your name isn't called. It's been 3 weeks since you've heard from home. You tell yourself the letter is just delayed, not lost. The mail system is unreliable at best. Samuel gets a letter from his wife, judging by how he carefully tucks it inside his jacket without opening it. He'll save it for tonight to read privately by firelight. Some things are too precious to share, even among men who sleep side by side and face death together. Form up, form up. The sergeant's voice cuts through the morning chatter. We move out in 10 minutes. The camp erupts into organised chaos as hundreds of men gather their belongings and form into companies. Your company, Company K, consists of about 80 men, down from the 100 who started when you enlisted. Diseases claimed more than combat so far, with measles, dysentery and typhoid fever sweeping through the camps with ruthless efficiency. You take your place in line, standing shoulder to shoulder with men you now know better than your own brothers. There's Jenkins with his freckles and endless supply of jokes. Thompson, the former school teacher who carries a small copy of Shakespeare's sonnets. Monroe, who barely speaks but can play any tune on his harmonica. And of course, Samuel, your tent mate, who joined up, leaving a wife and 2 small children behind. The drum begins its steady beat, and the long column of soldiers starts to move. Left foot, right foot. The rhythm of the march becomes the rhythm of your existence. You've learned to empty your mind during these endless marches, to find a place inside yourself where time stretches and contracts, where you can be both present in your aching body and somehow separate from it. The late summer sun rises higher, beaten down on your blue wool uniform. Sweat trickles down your back, and your wool shirt sticks to your skin. The inside of your thighs chafe painfully, where the rough fabric of your trousers rubs with each step. These are the miseries no one told you about when you enlisted. Not the grand heroics of battle, but the constant grinding discomfort of a soldier's daily existence. Water discipline, the sergeant calls out as you pass a small creek. No stopping yet, though. Every man in the column eyes the sparkling water with longing. The officers don't want to break the marching rhythm for individual water stops. When you do stop, it will be organised with designated men filling canteens for their comrades to prevent the chaos that could occur if hundreds of thirsty soldiers rushed a water source at once. The road stretches ahead, dusty and seemingly endless. The men at the front of the column kick up dirt that settles on those behind, coating everyone and everything in a fine, gritty layer. Your mouth tastes of dust and your eyes sting. Still, you march on. Left foot, right foot. By midday, the column halts for a brief rest. You sink to the ground at the side of the road, grateful for the chance to take the weight off your blistered feet. Samuel sits beside you, finally opening his letter. His face, weathered beyond his years, softens as he reads his wife's words. For a moment, he's not a soldier, but a husband, a father, a man with a life beyond this endless march. She says, "The corn's coming in good this year," he tells you. A smile breaking through the dust on his face, and little Mary took her first steps. The pride in his voice is palpable, but there's sadness too. A first step is something you can't get back, a moment forever lost to him. You nod, trying to share in his joy while fighting back your own homesickness. The farm in Ohio seems a lifetime away now, though it's been less than a year. You wonder how the apple trees are doing, if your mother still sets a place for you at dinner, if the girl from the neighbouring farm ever reads the awkward letter you sent before marching off to war. The rest is short, 20 minutes at most, before the drums beat again and the sergeant's call for formation. You help Samuel to his feet, noticing how his cough has worsened since morning. He waves off your concern. Just dust, he insists, though you both know it's more than that. The army doctors have little to offer for such ailments. Perhaps a dose of blue mass pills that contain mercury and often make the patient worse, or a shot of whiskey to ease the discomfort temporarily. Many men prefer to suffer in silence rather than risk the cures. The afternoon march is harder than the morning. The novelty of movement has worn off, replaced by the grinding reality of sore muscles and blistered feet. The weight of your pack seems to increase with each mile. Your rifle, once a point of pride, has become just another burden. You march through small towns where civilians watch from windows and porches. Some wave or offer water, others turn away. This is Union territory, but sympathies are divided. You've seen the sidelong glances, heard the muttered comments. Not everyone believes in the cause you're fighting for, and sometimes that's harder to bear than the physical hardships. By late afternoon, rumours filter back through the column. You're stopping early today. The area ahead has good water and defensible ground. The officers anticipate reaching the battlefield within 2 days and want the men rested. This news brings both relief and apprehension. Rest is desperately needed, but it also means you're drawing closer to combat. When the order finally comes to make camp, there's an audible sigh of relief from the men. The regiment flows off the road into adjacent fields, companies directed to their designated areas by mounted officers. The routine is well established now. First, secure the area and set up defensive positions if needed. Then establish cook fires, pitch tents, and only then can men see to their personal comfort. You and Samuel work together to set up your small shelter tent. Really just 2 pieces of canvas buttoned together, and stretched over a horizontal pole open at both ends. It's barely large enough for 2 men to sleep under and offers minimal protection from rain, but it's better than sleeping in the open. The camp comes alive around you. Fires are built, and soon the smell of cooking fills the air. Today there's a surprise. Fresh beef has arrived with supply wagons. It's a welcome change from salt pork and hardtack. Men line up with their tin plates, faces expectant. The portion you receive is small, tough, and badly cooked, but it's still the best meal you've had in weeks. As evening falls, the mood in the camp shifts. Men gather in small groups, talking quietly, writing letters by firelight, or engaging in impromptu entertainment. Thompson recites Shakespeare to an appreciative audience. Monroe plays his harmonica, the mournful notes of home, sweet home, bringing unexpected tears to your eyes. Some men play cards or dice, gambling for trivial stakes, a button, an extra coffee ration, the promise of a future favour. You sit by a small fire with Samuel and Jenkins, listening to the sounds of the camp settling for the night. In the distance, picket sentries watch for any sign of enemy movement, though you're still considered to be in friendly territory. The war feels both imminent and somehow distant in these quiet moments. My pair fought the British in 1812, Jenkins says, poking at the fire with a stick. Said the waiting was always worse than the fighting. Said once the shooting started, you didn't have time to be scared. Samuel nods thoughtfully. My granddaddy told stories about the revolution. Said men would soil themselves before battle, but stand firm once it began. He pauses, coughing deeply before continuing. Guess some things don't change. You've experienced this already. The cramping guts and dry mouth as you waited for your first battle to begin. Then the strange detached calm that came once you were in the thick of it. Not bravery exactly, but a narrowing of focus to the immediate tasks. Load, aim, fire, load, aim, fire. As if your body continued on its own while your mind retreated to some safer place. They say this one's going to be big, Jenkins says quietly. Whole rebel army's supposed to be up ahead. No one responds. What is there to say? You'll march where ordered, fight when commanded, and hope to survive. Individual choice feels like a distant concept from another life. As darkness deepens, the camp grows quieter. The day's exhaustion catches up with everyone, and men retreat to their tents, or simply wrap themselves in blankets beside dying fires. You and Samuel crawl into your small tent, arranging yourselves in the familiar pattern, heads at opposite ends to give each other slightly more room. You use your knapsack as a pillow, the hard edges digging into your cheek. Above you, through the open end of the tent, stars are visible in the clear night sky. The same stars shine over Ohio, over your family's farm. The thought brings both comfort and a sharp pang of longing. Samuel's breathing has the rattle of developing pneumonia. You've heard it before in other men, know what it likely means if left untreated. But what can you do? The regimental surgeon has hundreds of men to care for, and a cough isn't priority, not with a battle looming. If anything happens to me, Samuel says suddenly, his voice barely above a whisper, would you make sure my wife gets my things and my pay if they ever give it to us? The question hangs in the darkness. It's not the first time you've had this conversation. Most men in the company have made similar pacts, a brotherhood of grim insurance policies against the uncertainty of war. Of course I will, you answer, but nothing's going to happen. We'll see this through. Get back home. Samuel doesn't respond, but his hand briefly clasps your ankle in silent thanks. It's as much physical affection as men usually show one another. But in the context of your shared hardships, it speaks volumes. Sleep comes in fits and starts. The ground is hard beneath your thin blanket, and the night air grows chilly. Around you, the camp never fully quiets. Men cough, mutter in their sleep, or rise to answer nature's call. Somewhere nearby, a soldier cries out from a nightmare before being gently hushed by his comrades. No one mocks these nocturnal terrors. You've all had them. You drift between wakefulness and uneasy dreams. In one moment you're back home helping with the harvest. In the next you're in the midst of battle, unable to reload your rifle as the enemy advances. The boundary between dream and memory blurs. Was it last month, or in a dream, that you saw a man's face disappear in a spray of red mist? Did you really see a soldier crying over the body of his brother after Shiloh? Or have you just heard the story so many times it feels like your own memory? You wake fully before dawn, your body now trained to the military schedule. Samuel is already awake, sitting at the tent opening, shoulders hunched as he tries to suppress his cough. He offers a weak smile when he notices you watching. "Another day," he says simply. "Another day of marching. Another day closer to battle. Another day of being a small, anonymous part of this vast and terrible machinery of war, but also another day alive with a fragile hope of someday returning home." You nod and begin the process of preparing for the day ahead. There's a strange comfort in the routine, the familiar weight of your equipment, the predictable tasks, the camaraderie of shared hardship. This is your life now. For better or worse, you are a Union soldier in the summer of 1862. One blue uniform among thousands, marching toward a destiny you can neither predict nor control. As the first hint of dawn lightens the eastern sky, the bugles sound. Another day begins. You feel the deep ache in your shoulders as you hoist your pack, the familiar weight of your rifle in your hands. Around you the regiment stirs to life, a massive organism of which you are but a single cell, left foot, right foot. The march continues, and you with it step by step into history. The air is thick with early morning mist as you join the company formation, the fog swirling around your ankles like ghostly hands. You find your place in line, nodding to Jenkins on your left and Thompson on your right. Samuel stands behind you, his breathing audible even amid the shuffle of hundreds of men taking position. Forward march. The command ripples down the line and the great human centipede lurches into motion. Today's march will be longer. The officers have warned 15 miles at least to position the regiment closer to where intelligence suggests the Confederate forces are gathering. The first hour passes in relative quiet. Each man lost in his own thoughts, conserving energy for the long day ahead. The mist burns away as the sun climbs, revealing a landscape of rolling farmland interspersed with patches of forest. It's beautiful country, fertile and green. Hard to believe men will soon be killing each other across these peaceful fields. You feel a tap on your shoulder and turn slightly to see Samuel extend in a small piece of hard tack. You shake your head. He needs it more than you, but he insists. You accept the offering, understanding it for what it is, not just food, but a token of brotherhood. Out here, such small kindnesses can mean the difference between despair and endurance. The column passes a small farmhouse where a woman and 3 children stand watching. The youngest, a girl no more than 4, waves shyly. You wave back, a lump forming in your throat. She reminds you of your little sister, though your sister would be older now. Time passes differently when you are away at war, as if your home exists in another world where clocks run at a different speed. By midday, the temperature has risen dramatically. The wool uniform that offered welcome warmth at dawn now feels like an instrument of torture, trapping heat against your skin. Sweat pours down your face, stinging your eyes and soaking your collar. Your canteen is half empty already, and water is becoming a constant preoccupation. During a brief rest halt, rumours sweep through the ranks. Scouts have reported Confederate cavalry just 5 miles ahead. The enemy main force is entrenched near a river crossing you'll reach by tomorrow. Artillery fire has been heard in the distance. Each rumour contradicts the last, and veterans know to treat them all with scepticism. "The first casualty of war is truth," Thompson quotes quietly, though you're not sure if it's Shakespeare or his own observation. The afternoon brings new hardships. The road narrows and turns muddy where it passes through a swampy area. Each step becomes a struggle as your boots sink ankle deep in the muck. Men curse as they stumble or lose shoes to the hungry mud. The column stretches out, losing its cohesion as stronger men outpace those who struggle. Keep it tight. Close it up. The sergeants move up and down the line, cajoling, threatening, occasionally helping the weakest men. Unity is survival, a lesson drilled into every soldier from his first day of training. By late afternoon, exhaustion has become your primary reality. Your world has narrowed to the few feet of muddy road before you and the endless command to place one foot in front of the other. Your shoulders scream from the weight of your pack. The rifle that once felt like a natural extension of your arm now seems made of solid lead. And yet you march on because everyone else is marching. Because there is nowhere else to go. Because to fall behind is to be left behind. And men left behind sometimes don't catch up at all. They're found days later robbed and killed by bushwhackers, or simply vanished into the hungry landscape of war. Samuel's cough has worsened with the day's exertion. Each hacking spasm doubles him over, yet somehow he keeps pace. You've offered to carry some of his gear, but pride won't let him accept. Instead, you silently position yourself to catch him if he falls. A contingency neither of you acknowledges aloud. Just as the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the road, the column comes to an unexpected halt. Word passes back. The scouts have located a Confederate patrol less than a mile ahead. The regiment is deploying into defensive positions for the night, preparing for possible contact by morning. There's a new urgency in the officers' commands as companies are directed off the road into adjacent fields and woodlots. Your company is assigned to picket duty at the edge of a small forest, watching the approach from the north. It means no proper camp tonight, no fires, and heightened vigilance until dawn. You and Samuel find a position behind a fallen log that offers some concealment and protection. Neither of you speaks of the possibility of combat tomorrow. Instead, you share the last of your hard attack and a precious sip of water. Then check your weapons with practiced hands. Your Springfield rifle is loaded with a Minia ball, a deadly conical bullet that expands on impact, creating devastating wounds. You touch the percussion cap that will ignite the powder when you pull the trigger, ensuring it's properly seated. Night falls completely, bringing a profound darkness broken only by the faint light of stars. No moon tonight, good for concealment, bad for seeing approaching enemies. The forest around you comes alive with nocturnal sounds, the rustle of small animals, the call of a distant owl, the whisper of wind through leaves. Every sound makes you tense, your senses heightened by the knowledge that danger may be near. Time stretches in the darkness. You're assigned the first watch while Samuel tries to rest. Though his coughing makes real sleep impossible, you strain your eyes into the blackness beyond your position, seeing shapes move that aren't really there. The mind plays tricks in such situations, conjuring enemies from shadows. "Do you ever wonder what they're thinking?" Samuel whispers during a quiet moment. "The Rebs, I mean. Do you think they're sitting in the dark just like us, missing home and wondering why they're here?" The question catches you off guard. You've been trained to see the enemy as just that, an enemy, not men with hopes and fears like your own. But in the intimate darkness, such thoughts seem less traitorous. "I expect so," you answer slowly. "Most of them are just farm boys like us. Got caught up in something bigger than themselves." Samuel is quiet for a long moment. "My wife's cousin joined the Confederate Army. Good man, used to come for Christmas dinner every year." His voice holds wonder at the strange twists of fate that might soon have him aiming his rifle at someone he once shared a table with. The night deepens. You trade places with Samuel, leaning your back against the log and trying to find a position that allows for some rest without fully surrendering to sleep. Your rifle rests across your lap, a constant companion. Despite your best efforts, exhaustion eventually pulls you into a shallow sleep filled with fragmented dreams. You're back on your family's farm, the wheat fields golden in summer sun. Then suddenly the wheat is on fire and the sound of the flames becomes the sound of gunfire. You're running but your legs won't move properly. Someone is calling your name. Wake up. Samuel's urgent whisper brings you instantly alert. Listen. You strain your ears and hear it. The faint but unmistakable sound of horses moving slowly through the forest to your left. Not your own cavalry. They'd be coming from behind your position. These must be Confederate scouts probing the Union line. Samuel has already quietly shifted into a firing position, his rifle aimed toward the sounds. You follow suit, heart pounding so loudly you fear it might give away your position. The horses sound closer now, though still invisible in the darkness. You estimate there are 3 or 4 riders moving cautiously. A twig snaps startlingly loud in the night silence. The horses stop. You hold your breath, finger resting lightly on your trigger. One squeeze and you'd announce your position to every Confederate within earshot. Better to let them pass if possible. Report their movement once they're gone. Minutes pass in frozen silence. Then slowly the sound of hoof-beats resumes, this time moving away from your position. You've chosen a different path, perhaps sensing the danger without seeing it. You and Samuel exchange a glance of relief in the darkness. By the time dawn begins to lighten the eastern sky, you're fully awake again, every muscle tense with anticipation. The company officer moves quietly along the line of pickets, gathering reports of nighttime observations. You tell him about the Confederate horsemen, and he nods grimly. They're out there. All right, he confirms. Main force about 2 miles north will likely make contact today. The regiment forms up as the sun rises, not in marching column this time, but in battle formation. Companies arrange themselves by the book, creating a blue line 2 ranks deep that stretches across the open field. Officers on horseback position themselves behind the line, while skirmishers, men selected for their marksmanship and initiative, deploy ahead to make first contact and screen the regiment's advance. Your company forms part of the main line, positioned near the centre right of the regiment. You stand shoulder to shoulder with your comrades, close enough to feel Samuel trembling slightly beside you, though whether from illness or nerves you can't tell. Probably both. The order comes to advance. The blue line begins to move forward across the field, maintaining its formation with impressive discipline considering the uneven ground. Each step brings you closer to whatever waits beyond the far tree line. Your mouth is dry, your palms sweaty around the rifle stock. The familiar symptoms of pre-battle fear wash through you. The churning stomach, the need to urinate, the heightened awareness that makes colours seem brighter and sounds sharper. You're not the same frightened boy who faced his first battle months ago. Experience has taught you that fear can be managed, can even sharpen your reactions when the shooting starts. But the fear never goes away completely, not for anyone. The veterans just hide it better. 500 yards from the tree line, the first shot rings out. A Confederate picket firing at the Union skirmishers, then another shot and another. The skirmishers return fire. Small puffs of smoke marking their positions ahead of the main line. The scattered exchange of fire quickly intensifies as more Confederate troops reveal their positions along the edge of the forest. "Steady, boys," the captain calls from behind your company. "Keep moving forward." The regiment advances at a measured pace despite the increasing fire. Men fall here and there as Confederate bullets find their marks, but the line closes around these gaps and continues forward. 400 yards, 300. The fire intensifies. Company halt. The command rings out and the blue line comes to a stop. Ready? You raise your rifle to the ready position. Your movements automatic after countless drills. Aim. You bring the rifle to your shoulder, sighting along the barrel toward the smoke-shrouded tree line, where muzzle flashes reveal enemy positions. Fire. The regiment's first volley crashes out in a thunderous roar. Hundreds of rifles firing almost as one. The recoil punches into your shoulder, and acrid smoke envelops the line. Through the haze, you can see your bullets striking the trees as ground around the Confederate positions, with some finding human targets. Rebel soldiers fall, but others continue firing. Load. Your hands move through the familiar motions. Tear open a paper cartridge with your teeth. Pour powder down the barrel. Ram the mini ball home. Place a percussion cap on the nipple. The process takes about 30 seconds for an experienced soldier, time during which you're vulnerable to enemy fire. Ready, aim, fire. Another volley, another cloud of smoke. The air is now thick with it, obscuring your view of the battlefield. The noise is deafening. Not just the crash of hundreds of rifles, but the whine of bullets passing nearby, the shouts of officers, the screams of the wounded. All around you, men are loading and firing in a deadly rhythm. To your right, Jenkins falls suddenly, a red stain spreading across his blue jacket. There's no time to help him. The line has already closed to fill his place, and the next command to fire is coming. This is the terrible arithmetic of battle. One man falls, the line contracts, the firing continues. Samuel still stands beside you, his face pale but determined as he reloads his rifle. He meets your eyes briefly during a pause in the firing, and something unspoken passes between you, an acknowledgement that you're both still alive, at least for now. The battle unfolds in a series of smoky tables, moments of intense clarity punctuating the chaos. The Confederate line attempting a flanking movement to your left, only to be met by a Union cavalry charge. A rebel officer on a white horse raising his sword to rally his men before disappearing in a hail of bullets. the regimental flag falling as its bearer is hit, then instantly raised again by another soldier. Time loses all meaning in the midst of combat. It might be minutes or hours that you've been standing in this field, loading and firing your rifle until the barrel becomes too hot to touch. Your world has narrowed to the most basic elements of survival. The mechanical actions of reloading, the strain to see targets through the smoke, the constant awareness of the men to either side. A new sound cuts through the den of battle, the distinctive boom of artillery. Confederate cannon have opened fire from a position to the north, sending shells screaming toward the Union line. The first rounds fall short, throwing up geysers of dirt and stone, but the rebel gunners are finding their range, each shell landing closer to your position. Down. Someone shouts as a shell lands 20 yards ahead of your company. You drop instinctively, feeling the concussion of the explosion as dirt and fragments rain down. When you rise, there's a gap in the line where 3 men had been standing seconds before. The artillery changes the complexion of the battle. The Union line begins to waver under the combined pressure of Confederate infantry fire and the devastating artillery barrage. Men look to their officers, seeking guidance or reassurance. But the smoke makes it difficult to see more than a few yards in any direction. Fall back. The order finally comes passed along the line by officers and sergeants. Fall back to the tree line. Orderly withdrawal. Retreat is perhaps the most dangerous moment in battle. To turn your back on the enemy, to break the cohesion of the line. These actions invite disaster if not executed with discipline. Your company begins to withdraw, walking backward while continuing to fire, providing cover for each other. You help Samuel, who stumbles as a shell explodes nearby, nearly knocking him off his feet. His face is grey with exhaustion and illness, but he keeps moving, keeps fighting. Together you make it to the relative shelter of the forest edge, where the regiment begins to reform its line among the trees. The battle continues until dusk, a stalemate of attack and counterattack across the contested field. By nightfall, both sides withdraw to lick their wounds and prepare for the next day's fighting. The cost has been high. Your company alone has lost 12 men killed or wounded, including Jenkins and Thompson. In the makeshift field hospital behind the Union line, surgeons work by lamplight, their aprons dark with blood as they treat the wounded. The sound of sawing reaches your ears, amputations being performed on men with shattered limbs. The lucky ones get chloroform or ether before the blade touches them. Some get only a shot of whiskey and a leather strap to bite down on. You and Samuel sit silently at the edge of the camp, too exhausted to speak, too wired from combat to sleep. Tomorrow will bring more of the same. Another test of courage, skill, and simple luck. For now, you clean your rifle, check your remaining ammunition, and watch the stars emerge above the battlefield. The same stars that shine over Ohio and Pennsylvania, over the homes you both dream of seeing again. This is the reality of a Civil War soldier's life. Long periods of boredom and hardship punctuated by moments of absolute terror. Not the glorious adventure promised by recruitment posters, but a grinding test of endurance where survival itself is victory. And you're one of the lucky ones. You're still alive, still able to fight, still holding on to the hope of someday returning home. As you finally stretch out on the hard ground, rifle at your side, you wonder what tomorrow will bring. More marching, more fighting. You've learned not to look too far ahead. In war, the future extends only as far as the next sunrise. For now, it's enough to have survived another day in the life of a Civil War soldier. You wake with a start, momentarily disoriented. The ground beneath you is damp, and a fine mist hangs in the early morning air. Around you, men are stirring, their movements slow and stiff after sleeping on the cold earth. Yesterday's battle feels both impossibly distant and terrifyingly immediate, like a nightmare you can't quite shake off. Samuel lies beside you, his breathing shallow and rapid. His cough has worsened overnight, and a sheen of sweat covers his forehead despite the morning chill. You place a hand on his shoulder, feeling the heat radiating through his damp uniform. "I'm fine," he mutters before you can speak. Pushing himself up to a sitting position with visible effort. "Just need to get moving." You both know he's not fine. The combination of pneumonia and exhaustion from yesterday's battle has pushed him to his limits. But what choice does he have? The regiment is preparing to move out, and any man who can't keep up will be left behind at a field hospital, places soldiers have learned to fear almost as much as the battlefield itself. The regimental surgeon, Dr. Morris, moves through the camp, checking on the wounded who weren't evacuated yesterday. He's a grim-faced man in his 40s with bloodstains permanently embedded in the creases of his hands. When he reaches Samuel, he listens to his chest with a stethoscope, his expression revealing nothing. Pneumonia, he confirms, though you all knew this already. Should be in hospital. Samuel shakes his head firmly. "I can march, Doc. Just give me something for the cough." The doctor sighs. He's had this conversation countless times before. From his bag he produces a small bottle of dark liquid. "Laudanum," he explains, handing it to Samuel. "Take a few drops when the cough gets bad. Not too much. It's addictive stuff." He moves on to the next patient without further discussion, aware that dozens more need his attention before the regiment moves out. Laudanum, a tincture of opium mixed with alcohol. You've seen men become dependent on it, their eyes glazed and movements sluggish, but still they beg the doctors for more. It's effective though, one of the few truly effective medications available to Civil War doctors. The camp bustles with pre-arch activity. Men roll their blankets, pack knapsacks and form into companies. The wounded from yesterday's battle have been moved to a field hospital set up in a nearby church. Those who can't be moved are placed in farm wagons to travel with the regiment until they reach a more permanent medical facility. Today's objective is unclear. Rumours contradict each other as usual. Some say you're marching to join a larger force preparing for a major offensive. Others insist you're withdrawing to more defensible positions. The enlisted men rarely know the big picture. Your world has shrunk to the immediate concerns of your company and regiment. Breakfast is coffee and hard tack again. The biscuit's so hard you need to soak it in your coffee to make it edible. The coffee itself is a precious commodity. Many men would rather go without food than miss their morning cup. It's one of the small comforts that makes the hardships bearable. As you eat, you take stock of your company. The losses from yesterday are evident in the gaps in the ranks. Jenkins is gone, likely dead, though you never saw what happened to him after he fell. Thompson is in the field hospital with a bullet wound to his shoulder. He might survive if infection doesn't set in. Monroe sits nearby, quietly playing his harmonica, the mournful tune at odds with the bustling camp around him. "Mail call before we move out," announces Wilson, the company clear. A cheer goes up from the men. Mail is the closest thing to home any of you have out here. This time your name is called. The letters from your mother, dated 3 weeks ago. You tuck it inside your jacket to read later, saving it like a precious gift to be unwrapped at the right moment. Samuel gets nothing this time, but he doesn't seem to notice his attention focused on simply remaining upright. The regiment forms up, companies falling into their assigned places in the column. Your captain, a young West Point graduate named Harrington, walks the line, inspecting his men. He pauses briefly before Samuel, noting his flushed face and laboured breathing. "Private Matthews, are you fit to march?" he asks, his voice neutral. Samuel straightens as much as he can. "Yes, sir." The captain holds his gaze for a moment longer, then nods once. "Stay toward the rear of the company. If you fall behind, report to the surgeon's wagon. It's as much accommodation as can be expected in these circumstances." The drums begin their familiar beat, and the column lurches into motion. Today's march is slower, more deliberate than yesterday's. The battle has changed the regiment's mood.